Hello friends, I am VERMA, Director PT Raipur Miracles. Friends, welcome to this special program called Coffee Talk with Toppers. Friends, first of all, I'll tell you what is the basic rationale behind making this particular show. The basic intention is very clear that a lot of students from our institute, they make it to various top national level colleges. So we want to document their success stories so that those success stories can ignite a spark in many budding aspirants. Mohit is pursuing BTech in Mechanical branch from NIT Raipur. He took CAT 2018 and he scored 99.25 percentile. And he got a lot of IIM calls, including IIM Bangalore, Kozhikode, Indore, Shillong, and all the new IIMs. And he has got finally selected in IIM Indore, all the new IIMs and things like that. And finally, it seems that he is preparing to join IIM Indore. So let's listen to Mohit.
While I was doing engineering, I was involved in many projects, and while I was doing those projects, I realized that apart from being very sound in my technical knowledge, I was very good at things that were usually not done by all the people. So I realized that it gives me a blend to go for an MBA and be a better individual for an organization than just be a technical guy. By the beginning of my 5th semester, I joined PT Education. So that was actually the best time to join the coaching because I had a one full year to prepare for the exam and then 3 to 4 months additional to rectify on my mistakes. Initially when I joined coaching, there were some topics that I was not very familiar with. I would gladly say that there was still, I was not very well versed with tenses and other stuff. So once I joined coaching, slowly they started getting better and better. So those were the initial challenges that when you get into the flow with the preparation, it gets better with time. I scored 95.99 percentile to be exact in verbal. So that was a quite good score since the verbal was very easy this year, as many found it to be. Initially, I stick with my strategy that was to attempt as many RCs as can. If you look into the composition of the paper, you realize that 24 questions out of the 34 are from RCs. Yes. So they carry a handsome weightage altogether. So I was very good with RCs. I was very confident with them. So and eventually I was able to score 23 correct out of the 24. So that was my strategy, that go full on with RCs and stick with them. They make them your best friends and they'll reward you in every possible way. I started reading from many different platforms, but later I realized that you have to know your strengths. Some people get versed with English by reading novels, some people get versed by reading articles. So I was very good with articles. So while I was very versed with reading editorials, it helped me immensely in inferencing the information from the RCs. And later on, the supplement that I got from PT, the vocab supplement, was bang on the cherry on the ice, I would say, the cherry on the cake. So once you have the combination of all these things, the grammar material, the vocab material, and plus your reading habit, the RCs becomes a cakewalk. It has been their common trend that they are slowly increasing the level of the DI and LR passages that they are giving. So moreover, I would suggest anyone who is attempting CAT is stick with your strategy. You should be very clear how much are you going to attempt, which passages are you going to attempt, and how are you going to select those passages. So that is the main thing. Plus the strategy that I followed, for LRDI, I was initially, from initial stages, I was very good at it. I would be frank in that point, but later on, I had to work on it because the kind of passages that are coming together, they are a mix of DI and LR. Some of them are purely DI, but in a very different strata. So all I had to do was to attempt questions that were very similar to the level that is going to come in CAT, and for that the PT material, it was well versed with the question that has previously come in CAT. So you kind of know it already, that what is expected of you. Then remember those questions, how you proceeded with it, your method, the flowcharts, make flowcharts if possible, that from where you extracted those information. It is all about how you play with the information that is given to you. Whenever I introduce myself to anyone as an engineer who is pursuing engineering, they say that quantitative in CAT becomes a cakewalk for you. But trust me, it is not so. It is not so. They are testing some different set of skill sets that they look for in managers, not in engineers. So initially I was very confident with it, but later I had to work on each and every topic. More I realized that only strategy in quantitative is practice, and just practice. Analyze where you are getting wrong, what are the topics that you need to improve on, and then practice. That's it. I mean, quantitative is all about your work and how you're gonna implement that work on the day. Once it's also all over with the return stage, the MBA entrances get more interesting. So the GDPI stage was initially, since it was my first attempt, I was not very informed about how it's gonna go about. So that's when I contacted you and other faculty members at PT, and it helped me immensely. I frankly say it helped me in a way that it gave me an insight what is expected of a candidate in those examinations. Plus, to prepare for personal interview is in itself a larger process, to know about yourself, to know about what how you would actually present yourself in a better way, and that's where the PT faculty staff came into play. It wasn't the typical interview when they ask you about yourself and why MBA and other things. Something interesting happened. My interview was eventually scheduled at last because of some reasons. Generally, I used to be the first or second in the queue. So it got shifted to last, and I was waiting for a long time, and I had to travel since 5, and then at 11:30 I'm attempting an interview without having breakfast. So they realized that I had a low voice, and then slowly when I was about to end my interview, they did ask me, so would you like to have breakfast? So I said I didn't had one, I will just go and have one. So he offered me his breakfast, like this is from our side for your amazing interview. We also enjoyed it in a way because it was very fun in a way that all of them liked sports. They asked me so many things about sports. That was also my interest in sports. Generally, I am very good with statistics. and that's what I told them. So they asked me, what's Virat Kohli's average? I gave them a bang on answer of 60.02. So since I read it the previous day, they were also very surprised to know. Then they asked me, what's his second innings average? I said 68.77. That was also bang on, and they were very surprised to know that. Then they started enjoying it. There were a series of questions regarding the same, and then they asked me about opinions, how you can take cricket ahead as a world sport and other things. Then at the end of the interview, they did, maybe at some point of time they realized that this guy deserves a sandwich rather than a cookie. So they did offer me one. While I went to the interview hall, they straight away asked me that you are an engineering graduate. So they went on firing questions from technical background. They were all well versed with what I was reading in mechanical engineering. So they asked me my favorite subjects. Then they went on about asking about basic stuff like beams, bars, bending moments, and then came the fireball. He asked me what is bending moment. I explained it brilliantly and accurately. Then he said, oh, can you draw it? I said, yeah, fine, why not? Then there was a half empty glass in front of him. He moves it towards me and says, draw its bending moment diagram. And I was like, this is it. This is it. For 2 to 3 seconds, I was blank. Now what? Then eventually I explained how it can be done. So that's what eventually I realized that they wanted to know. Rather than being a correct answer or not, I would say they wanted to know the approach and how well you can frame your answer. The IIM Bangalore interview was very late in the schedule, so I was very tensed about it as well. But when I went into the interview, I realized that was the kind of interview that everyone wants to have. It was all on my strengths, as well as the topics that I would actually want to tell to an interviewer. I got a job from an on-campus job from Dassault system. Thanks to Rahul Gandhi, now everyone knows about my company, I would say. So even they were very curious to know about that controversy. So it went on with a very light discussion, what my opinions are over the Hindu dealings and other things, what's going on behind the scenes, and what's my opinion on that topic. Then they switched to one of the highlights that I had in my profile. That was I was part of a proud venture that went on to develop an electric vehicle and showcase it in Singapore. So that was a very proud moment in itself, because we were the first NIT to represent our nation into an international event. I was a part of that, so they also wanted to know what actually went about that. So strikingly, I would say the best experience that I had in my life, and I explained it to them the same way and they were very interested on that. So once you have something to tell to the interviewer, they take interest in that, and then that's how your interview goes. You never expected to ask the questions that you want them to ask, but they will somehow ask the questions that they wish you to answer. So that's how the IIM interviews are. That's why they say one must experience an IIM interview and must go for vote. I was a typical layman in everything, I say, but after joining PT, I slowly started to know what is required in those MBA entrances exam that would actually take me to the place that I want to be. The material that was supplied, all structured material, I would say, brilliantly framed. Every topic and every passage dealing in LIDI, or I would say the topics in quantitative, they were all well in line with what's going to ask in CAT. Whenever you attempt mocks, you realize that how deep you are in those waters that you are trying to swim in. So that's where the preparation never goes stagnant or constant. It goes as high as you can think and as low as you cannot think. So that's where a proper mentorship support is required, and that's where I would actually like to personally thank you in this interview, that all throughout my journey in the last 24 months and counting, you have been, and the other faculty members have been in constant support to me, because more than the technical support on what's required in an exam, it's all about your motivation, and you have to keep it high on that D-Day, because many preparation shatters if you are not highly motivated to achieve that. So that's where it was very amazing, the classroom training. It was all very friendly, I would say, in an atmosphere that you are more comfortable with, and mocks. The best part of preparing is all about assessing yourself. So be regular with the mocks, be regular with the classrooms, I would say, first, and then be regular with the mocks. Analyze them. If you are giving 3 hours for a mock, to attempt a mock, give 5 years to analyze it, because that's a better learning experience than a whole week of theoretical gain. The big boss, the Bodhi Prep portal. So being involved in all my work, I had all the time to go for a 24/7 online portal that is on my doorstep at any time that I go and want to read. So that's how it was very amazing experience for me. There are more than 4,000 plus videos, so I felt that I'll have to attempt CAT twice to complete all of them at one point of time. But the quantity is ample. If one wants to prepare for it, one wants to prepare, build upon, and improve on it. So it's all well framed material. It's all about your motivation to do it. So when you are on a platform that's used by most people, it gets ultimately amazing that you are trying to give students the basic inputs that they need. I mean, it can be a refreshment as well for the students, but it can also be a reminder that I need to prepare well. Those are all amazing inputs. The GK inputs, the math magic, and the quote of the day. That's also an amazing thing. Though I have a very good technical profile and other thing, but I do not consider myself as a geek, I would say. I have hobbies. I like to play sports. I have been, I'm a state level volleyball player. So I have hobbies. I like to solve cubes, speed cubing. At my peak, I was close to 14 seconds. But you have to sort your priorities. So CAT comes first and then speed cubing. It still goes. It's my hobby. I still solve it. And I'm trying new variants on that. Plus recently I've started gardening as well. After being having so much time after the interviews, you need to plant some seeds. many students underrate the importance of their profile. When you are applying for something that requires you to be an overall individual, it becomes very important to have an overall input to have them a better understanding about yourself. So most students, they go unidirectionally on one fact that they need to clear the entrance exam, but it's also about the next step, that is the personal interviews as well. So that's where the profile comes in very handy. I feel even if you are doing your bachelor's degree alongside preparing for an MBA entrance, it's not very difficult to build your profile. Do things that are going around in your colleges. Like I was very involved in quizzing. I have won around 10 to 15 quizzing. So quizzing events. I was also involved in debating. I was working as a student placement convener at my college. So all these things gives an overall input to your profile, and it shows that this individual is not all about the parameters that we are assessing. It's all more than that, and this has the potential to perform better. So you have an ample amount of time. I would suggest all the students watching this, you have ample amount of time, invest them. Your college time is the best time that you can explore, you can prepare as well as you can perform. So do things that fascinates you, and it eventually adds up in your profile in some way or other. Whenever initially someone starts giving mocks, so the first score is somewhere around the way below the threshold, then it improves, then it goes towards your threshold mark that you want to say. Then comes a point when it's suddenly declining, and you don't have anything to do with it. You are doing what all you were doing, but it suddenly declines. It suddenly declines to an extent that you realize that, okay, was my peak over or something? But that's where you need to be yourself motivated, because it's all momentarily. Because eventually, if you have something, a goal in your mind, and you are preparing well for it, you would eventually get it. It's all momentarily. Get past that time, consult for your friends, the faculties that are readily available to help you, and that's where you need the maximum motivation. I would like to point out one thing, that I was very regular with all that was happening in PT, but though I was not very regular with my side of preparation, I started giving it a serious thought very late. So last 2 to 3 months were very important for me. Eventually, I feel at this point of time that I could have done better. So it's all about give your best when it's time. Be confident, be very well versed with your strategy, develop strategies. If it's not working for them, switch as quickly as you made them, and be confident, because CAT is moreover about your strategy and how you apply it, rather than the quantity of the time that you spend on preparing for it. It's all about applying it on the D-Day, and be prepared with it. If I can do it, you can do it as well. So good luck for it, all those who are preparing for CAT. Thank you.